Oh hey, welcome to the basement. We have a lot of work to do today, so make sure that you follow along with the video, watch the whole thing, because there's both assignments that we have done before, and those will happen at the end of the video, but then there's also a new assignment that we're starting today, the evidence collector, and that's going to be the bulk of my instruction. Now, I am going to have separate instructions for that evidence collector for each novel, and I think I'm going to try to do some fancy color coding, so if you need to do rewatches, you can hunt for the part of the directions that apply to only your novel by using the clues of the coloring of the video, but you should really make sure that you watch the whole thing first. You can skip the parts of the video that don't apply to you because it's for the other novels, and again, look for the colors. But then the very end is going to be the instructions for everybody for how to turn in your work for just today. The evidence collector project that we're starting is an ongoing project, so you're going to start working on it today, and then you're going to set it aside. So you're not finishing it today, you're just going to poke at it a little bit according to the advice that I give, with the understanding that eventually it will be something that I'm expecting you to add to, but no more than what I'm asking for today. The assignment that is, of course, ongoing already is your reading calendar, and so I think that's probably good, even though it's the assignment that will be posted last, which is your next reading assignment. Let's work backwards and talk about where we are in the reading. Here's the big reading calendar for all three novels. While everyone is reading a different text, and that means that there's different page numbers, different chapter titles, we all have to do this in 7 readings. So today, Thursday the 23rd, everybody should be through the first 3 readings of your novel. The next reading, the 4th, is not due next Thursday because next Thursday is not a day of school. It's your little bit of an April break. So you have 2 weeks to get the 4th reading assignment done. In terms of assessment so far, we have only assessed the first 2 chapters in the reading quiz that we took on Tuesday. We're not doing any assessment today with reading assignment number 3. Today is about debrief, evidence collector, and a little bit of reflection, but there's no quiz component to today. That does not mean that the material in this 3rd reading assignment won't be asked of you later, so that's what a day like today is useful for. Diving back into the text, finding that reading guide question that you didn't answer quite yet, and if it's because you couldn't finish the reading, well then find that time to finish the reading. If it's because you didn't understand something that a reading guide question is asking, well then ask me, either by email or through even the Flipgrid assignments that you'll have today. The reading guide questions sometimes will be ones that are difficult to answer because not only are they to help you through it, but they're also pointing to moments in the novel that are probably one that you want to remember. And now that we're moving to the evidence collector, those pointers can be ways to go and find evidence so that you're not picking up your novel and starting over and, well, I guess I'll just start reading from page 1 again. That's not the hope when you're given a, hey, search back through the novel and tell me something about it. You want to say, I need to find the moment where Junior did this, and go right to it. That way you're much more efficient with your work time, and you're just continuing to practice and sort of understanding the essential parts of your text. No one's memorizing these, but you're just remembering the meaning, the feeling of them, and how that could be taken away from the class, not each and every word. Okay, so let's talk about the evidence collector. The evidence collector is going to post under its own assignment. 6.16 is that number that you're going to get to know oh so well. because it's the one that you will be returning to every time I say, today I want you to add to your evidence collector. It looks like this. And we've already looked at it once because we spent one day reviewing our literary devices, specifically these 8. If you need those defined again, that assignment hasn't gone away. It's still up here. You, at this point, will have to do view more. But 6.16 is getting to know some literary terms. So those are defined as flashcards back there, because we were getting ready to do this. The evidence collector is set up with the 7 readings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 2 more. Right, for a total of 9 rows. Now, I'm going to get back on camera here a second to say, if you look at this, number 3, reading number 3, I'm not saying that you have to be through number 3 today. I'm not saying that you have to go 1, 2, 3 today. We're just going to do 1. We're just going to go back to chapter 1 and do the first. And then in a future work day, once I feel that people know how to use the evidence collector, it won't be as hard to pop in 2 more. But I'm not asking you for you to do all 3 today, just the 1. And more specific reasons as to why I'm just asking for 1 in a moment. There are 4 columns for you to complete. One of them is going to end up just being a word. And so there's really 3 columns for you to complete. And then still another is just a repeat of a first column. So here's how that works. You're going to find an essential moment in your text and quote and cite it. You're going to identify which of these fiction techniques, literary terms, literary devices, is on display in this moment. And then the question that we are answering over and over again, it's the big one that's right here. How does an author use fiction to say things that are true? All right. Here's the author thinking about writing. Here's the reader reading that writing later. This yellow line represents that idea that the language and technique and style that the author uses is that data transfer wire. The one that's invisible, that we can't see, that maybe we wish would exist, because if they could just plug the book in, then I would know what the author is talking about. But we can't do that. So the only tool that we have is a shared library of techniques that we know have meanings. And so in that way, we realize what true human experience the author is exploring. That's why literary devices are important, because these books are fiction, but they're also about true things. Looks like Jack's going to be with us for the rest of the lecture. So once you identify a literary device, your job is to figure out what is the essential true thing that is being identified about humanity in that moment. This last column, you're just taking the evidence and copying it here again, and you're going to bold a couple of the words as proof that you didn't just copy and paste the evidence, but that you actually looked at it. All right? So from here, I think the lecture is going to break down into 4 parts. I'm going to do this once with our old friend, Fahrenheit 451. And then we're going to have a part-time Indian specific section, an Adoration of Jenna Fox specific section, and then a Lord of the Flies specific section. Now here's what a completed row would look like. So I'm going to choose... everybody today is going to be doing symbol. And so I want to go into Burning Bright. And the reason why I want to go into Burning Bright is because we didn't do Burning Bright in class. We did Burning Bright as a graphic novel, and then we finished that graphic novel at home. So I am going to find Granger and his men. So we're going to go out into the wilderness. Montauk's running, and he's floating. This is what I wanted to do. He's floating out in the wilderness. A lot of you did a good job on that question, talking about when he floats down the river. It was new to him because he's never been in wilderness. He spent all his life in the hustle and bustle of humanity. So when he's out in the wilderness, he feels a different sense of calm, a connection to nature that he had never... perfect. Here we go. Page 145 to 146. How was that for some authentic Mr. Honor time? At the bottom of 145, it says, he saw many hands held to its warmth, hands without arms, hidden in darkness. That it is the fire that the men are surrounding. Above the hands, motionless faces that were only moved and tossed and flickered with firelight. He hadn't known fire could look this way. So this is one of the things that I really enjoy about the fire symbol in Fahrenheit. Of course, you saw fire earlier as fire as a destructive force, fire as a cleaning force, and here fire is a communal force. It's bringing Granger's men together. So I am going to choose a very small quote. On 145, it's right before what I just read. It goes like this. So I am popping over to my graphic organizer, and I'm going to put in, it was not burning, burning, it was warming. And it's italics in the novel, so I've got to make sure that I have italics in my quote. I'm approaching it exactly the way Bradbury did, and of course I'm citing it properly here. All right, period goes there, so then the period gets out of this. All right, there we go. Step 1, found my quote. All right, so step 2, what is the fiction technique on display? We're going a little bit backwards today. The fiction technique on display, I've told you you're all looking for a complex symbol. So I'm just going to go ahead and write symbol. Done. That column is done. So then here's where I have to jump in. This column, how does an author use fiction to say things that are true? This is when I have to decide what is the true thing about a fire that can warm instead of burn. What is the true essential understanding of humanity that is happening in this moment? I'm going to go back into my evidence collector. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my power highlight. I can really help you do a good job. I'm going to, yes, use copy and paste. I'm going to bold a couple words. I'm going to bold the word not, and I'm going to bold the word warming. So what I'm saying here is those are the two words that I'm going to pick apart. That I feel like when I see those two words, I feel like this is why this sentence about fire sticks out to me. And so the two things I'm going to say is that Guy learns here that not all ideas are to be taken without question. He has never questioned fire, and when he realizes that this is a fire that does not burn, it is a symbol. Oh, of how open his mind has become, that he can see an object that was so essential to him in a new way. Now I'm going to move over. Right? So obviously, I can get pretty fancy with this. I got all of that out of the word not. Now I'm going to use the word warming. His reward for investigating this fire in this with new perspective is that he receives a positive and welcoming sense of community from these new characters. Here's where I'm going to get really English teacher, which sets up the end of the novel. Obviously, you wouldn't have to do all of that. But isn't it true that we can take something that we have known our whole life and bring that to a new group of people, and because of our perspective on that thing, once we're willing to hear the other perspectives from new people on that maybe same thing, that that could become a much more healthy community, and one that is instead of taking ideas and burning the ones that you don't want, it's much more of a steady flame of you get to keep your ideas, but then they're almost like stoked and allowed to keep percolating because it exists healthily in a community of ideas in which yours is a shared understanding. That's why it's really interesting that there's a difference between the fire that starts this novel, which is one that comes out of a kerosene hose, and the one that we just witnessed, which is a campfire. And when you think of a campfire, you think of guitars and community and gathering around it. So that very thing that had been a destructive force in this moment becomes a communal force. There you go. I just did it for Fahrenheit 451. Now let's do it novel by novel. So here we go. This is where we go to your specific novel. All of you are doing reading number 1. So all of my examples are ones that can be found from the very first chapter. Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. You're going to take a look at page 876. You can look at page 6. Page 6. Junior talks about his cartoons on this page. He talks about them being his only real chance to escape from the reservation, and that the cartoons are tiny little lifeboats. Well, as soon as he says that, the cartoons are the symbol. So you're going to pick evidence from somewhere in that page. What does him drawing cartoons tell us about humanity? What essential true thing is being identified in this character's need to express himself through cartooning? Okay? Adoration of Jenna Fox. Yours is a little funky because it's not going to be in the text, the narrative, the action, right? This is told in first-person point of view. All of it is from Jenna's point of view. But starting on page 5, and so you have a little bit of choice, but every time there's one of these gray pages, it's a poem. And the poem, like Junior's cartoon, can be discerned to be this character's expression, where Junior does it through cartoon, this character does it through poetry. And so the symbol is Jenna's poetry. The evidence that you'll choose will be a poem of your choice that works well. why does she write these poems? What does that tell us about her humanity? Even though we know that the central plot of this questions her humanity, what does the fact that she needs to journal in poem form tell us about her essential humanity? And why do we use things like poetry to try to solve questions that we might have about ourselves? So your symbol is her poems. Your evidence will be one of those poems that you think works well for that. And then Lord of the Flies. Do you smell that? Chock full of symbol goodness. There's so many symbols in here. It's unfair for me to choose for you, but hey, we're starting small. So your very first symbol is going to be the conch shell. In chapter 1, when it is pulled out of the lagoon, it immediately becomes a symbol for what? What does it tell us about the human need for social structure? What does it tell us about who gets to have that social structure? What does it tell us about how much of our social structure is based on like things that are real, and how much of our social structure is maybe just sort of an agreed upon set of standards that could fall apart at any time? Why are they trying to have some standards in this situation? Who gets to blow the conch? Who knows how to blow the conch versus who can blow the conch? All things that you could talk about that probably tell us some true things about the type of people who have to lead and the type of people who have to follow. All right, so that ended up being pretty quick. I'm still probably going to get fancy and use colors because I can, but that's what we're doing today. One row of the evidence collector. Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. You're going to find a quote about Junior's cartoons. Adoration of Jenna Fox, you're going to find a quote about Jenna's poems. Lord of the Flies, you are going to find a quote about the conch shell. All of you, every single one of you, will be choosing symbols of fiction technique because I just assigned you a symbol. All of you, whatever you find here, that's going to be different. You're going to copy and paste it here, and like I did, bold a couple words that you think are important. And then this is the one I can't do for you. This is the this column, the true thing. That's where you have to decide, what do you think the true thing is that is on display. Okay? That's the core of your work. Now let's talk about the conclusion of the day's class. The conclusion of the day's class is something that you've done before. It's a Flipgrid. The Flipgrid's link will be on this video assignment, as will be the Flipgrid questions. The Flipgrid questions are mostly focused on you just putting down on paper, recording the work that you did today. All right, so let's take a look at where that is, and then I will send you on your way. So again, it's going to be here where the Flipgrid link is, and the Flipgrid questions today are the following. Tell me what true thing your assigned symbol identifies. In other words, tell me what you wrote in the true thing column in the evidence collector. All right, whatever you wrote here, read it to the camera. Number 2, this is optional. I handed back your reading quizzes on Wednesday, and not only did I hand it back, but I also gave an insight into why the question was asked, like why it's an important part of the reading guide questions, because all of the multiple choice questions came from the reading guide, and I wrote some feedback as to here's where you can find the right answer. So you can earn one of those questions back, because I had a lot of 6s and 8s, which means those could become 10s and 8s. 100% and 80%. Pretty good deal, I think, and appropriate for what you're doing. So choose one of those questions that you got wrong, and then read from your novel the portion of the text that contains the correct answer. Then finally, number 3, just to honor the fact that we did have a reading due today, choose a reading guide question from reading number 3 and answer it. So you will do that towards the end of class. And once you've got that turned in, plus 1 row on your evidence collector, you are finished for the day. You can take a break. If you still have more time, then 2 options that are available to you, of course, are starting reading number 4, making April break even more of a break. Yeah, I know, we're finishing up. Jack says it's going long. He says I gotta stop. Or C readers. Not that they're assigned this week, but C readers that you do this week can earn you bonus points. So why not do that as well? Okay, Meet will be up because some folks may want sort of help with understanding how to do the evidence collector, and that is fine, so I will be around for that. Okay, yeah, we're stopping, and we gotta stop. Jack says it's time to stop. Is it time to stop? It's time to stop.